everybody.
Good evening.
You all set, Deb?
Yeah, that's Gary.
Okay. We'll begin with the approval of the minutes from the 6/18/18 meeting. I'll entertain for a motion. Anyone? Chris? Mike? Corrections? Anything? Hearing none? All in favor? One opposed. Public comments, anyone?
Well, since I didn't get put on the agenda, can I address something in public comment, or would you rather wait to do it when you're new business? It has to do with the library.
Oh, go ahead, we'll do it under public comment.
This is the procedure. Karen McComb, President of the Board of the Library. Three things. First of all, we're very pleased to announce that Sherry Matthews has passed the civil service exam with flying colors for library manager, and we have appointed her as such retroactive to the date of passing, which is June 6, 2018. Secondly, just to put you up to speed about the electronic sign out in front, which you may have noticed is no longer there. The initial keyboard that came with that was a bare bones type of keyboard. It had some flaws to it. We sent it back to Barney's. This is a learning curve for him as well because he has never done a sign with electronics before. We had a meeting of the board. They approved an upgrade to that keyboard, which will be a remote from a computer as opposed to the handheld one, whose sensitivity was such that you had to be in very close proximity to the sensor on it. Some of the lights were not working properly, but eventually it will be coming back. It's a firm in California that actually does the work for us. And thirdly, we have our programming all set. I noticed that you'll be approving some bills for programming for this summer, and you should have received that in the mail as well. So it looks like a full schedule of programming this summer. Any questions?
Karen,
Sure.
on Sherry Matthews.
Yes.
Do we want to pass a resolution to accept her as library manager at retro a certain date, or?
That is the official civil service designation.
It's not
for the
director,
position.
it's not a director's position.
No, it's
Okay.
like, no, they do not, it's a library manager.
Okay.
And that was the exam that she took.
Okay,
Very well.
Well, I move that we accept Sherry as library manager,
and I'll second,
retroactive
Yeah.
to,
It was June 6th.
okay.
and I'll second that. Discussion? Anyone? All in favor? None opposed? Thank
Great,
you.
thanks.
Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, Randy won't be here. So we're gonna skip highway and buildings and we'll move right into, old business. I've been working with the county emergency service on the emergency operations plan. As of right now, we're working on what's called the best practice emergency plan through the county. And sometime in November, there is going to be a chief of the fire department / supervisor training for all the towns within the county. And that would be put on through Don Purdy. And it will be part of the training will be a model program for authority having jurisdiction. So things are in the works there. Our emergency plan is being reviewed and compared to the other towns in the county, and we're going to try to come up with something that fits more in the county with all the towns as far as the standard practice. So, any questions on that?
I have a question. Are we gonna lose our local coverage of emergency situations if we have to follow one through the county?
It'll be just a procedural program through the county. We'll be able to do things just what we want. I mean, it'll still be our program, but we're gonna follow standard procedure, which is initiated through the county.
I know, but I just don't wanna lose our local control. I respect our fire department.
We're not losing any control, we're just gonna follow the procedure through the county. We'll still have our own control.
And this is, when you say follow procedure, you mean somebody at
There's-
the county says that we think we have emergency and then a procedure is spelled out? Like,
Right.
for instance, notify you, notify the sheriff, notify the
Right.
fireman? Okay, and then it gets to you and then you have a procedure that you follow too?
We need some,
Is that-
we've gotta come up with a procedure,
Or is that the
a guidance
idea?
of what determines an emergency and, who does what.
I could speak to it slightly. The best practices is pretty much done by state fire. And that's, I believe, the one that would be doing the training for the supervisors and the chiefs of,
Right.
that are on the fire advisory board. And then that would trickle back down to different departments.
Which I believe is the way it's been done in the past.
Yes, yeah, so that was just brought up at the last fire advisory meeting, so I think this is all starting to dovetail together a little bit.
Right.
Okay, I have one other thing to add to that. I did hear from Verizon again and from AT&T. AT&T thought that I was writing on, like, that I own the property that the tower is on. And when I tried to return the call at the number and give them the case number, I was put on hold for like 20 minutes and the only prompts I got was to pay my bill or something about my lease. So I figured I'm not getting anywhere with this. Verizon got back to me wanting to know that they hadn't heard anything about any power being out here. And I know that's baloney because they had spoken to Don, they spoke to you
Yep.
about the outages and that we had no coverage. And so I provided them with the dates and the times that we were out, at least the last two-day outages. And then again today, which is kind of bizarre that I found out that everything is attached through Frontier somehow. Verizon isn't like a standalone. If Frontier goes down, also our tower goes down. And that was what Don told me today. So it kind of leaves everybody, there's,
Which is also tied to the web.
yeah, everything is
So, yeah,
all
every
tied,
internet service, yeah.
everything's tied together,
Internet services,
so,
Yeah. We've become so dependent on cell phones and internet that,
yeah.
we did have landline today, well, in and out.
Yeah, that was good. But that's my update and I'm still working on it, so.
I don't know if I can make a comment on that, but just for the local, for people who are working remotely here for their jobs, if they can't get internet access, this area loses a lot of its appeal. I mean, it's wonderful, you just want to get away, but some of us have to get away and keep an eye on the office.
Oh,
back home,
definitely.
so.
I mean, if you think about just the emergency situations,
Right.
most of the departments, most of the sheriff's department, the ranger force, everybody they use cell phones now. The ambulance uses cell phones. They do very little over the radios, and the radio system is kind of crummy too. So, a lot of dead spots. So it's a big concern.
Well, the fiber is coming through town. I wouldn't,
Hold my breath.
Hold your
hold your breath as far as when it's gonna be hooked up, but it is in the works, they are working hard at it, which is a bright light that we can look forward to eventually, so.
Okay.
Alright, the next thing I had was just an update on the LED street lighting. All the village and the towns that are going to be pursuing this through the New York Power Authority have been submitted. We'll be meeting on July the 17th for a proposal from the New York Power Authority. So that's in the works. We won't have any update on this until after that time. so. Sure, you got your stuff all in, that was good? Yep. Right. The advantage of doing this through the county is we can come up with a bigger package, and hopefully get some better pricing on getting this done. So, anybody have any other old business to discuss?
I think we have our discussion on lot 75.
What's up with that?
Yeah. So I'm happy to start that discussion on.
Okay,
If you don't have other business you need to attend to before we get.
we'll go right to the golf course road right away.
Okay. I am John Steinberg, good to see you again. I'm glad to be able to be here again, and the meeting worked out tonight. I want to say that on behalf of our family, and I think our neighbors who are going to speak as well, we would like to continue the use of the lot and the beachfront and right away as we have for the last, at least for us, for the last 48 years. We know that there's been no work or maintenance on the lot from the town standpoint over those years, and so it's been no expense to the city or the town to keep things up on that. We do not want to have to go to court. We know we have certain legal rights under adverse possession and all that, but we think that a much more equitable solution would be to look at a sale of that to the current right-of-way owners. We know it's not a buildable lot. No one is going to be able to build on it. There's really no value to other people. It's a wetlands area as well, so we think that this would relieve this city of its, town of its liability for that and allow us to continue our use on it. We already have seen, and I'll let some of the other neighbors who have been tracking it too, increased traffic going down and going to the beach area, to the right of way now. I was down there today with my family, and someone else was there. I said, well, who are you? He says, well, I live up on Route 8. And we have a right of way somewhere else, but it's been crowded, so we've been looking around for other places we could go. We saw the sign, it looked so inviting, we decided to come in, and we came yesterday, and we're gonna, so they were coming in, just people coming to it now. The sign is actually attracting people who have no right of way to it, just thinking it's a new public beach area for the town of Lake Pleasant. So we would like that not to happen. We don't want to have people coming who are not, who are just coming in and looking for another place to utilize the beach.
Now, was this on the side with the right of ways, or was this on the side with the, which is just town property?
Both, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so, on that. So what are the other right-of-way areas that are under, that the town currently has? Could we get a list of those, what those other ones, where the other signs are, and, who are the other people that are affected by those as well?
Oxbow Road. There's another right of way to Oxbow Lake.
And they're facing the same issues and restrictions, and
Same sign as that right of way also,
is
yes.
that the only other one we have, the other right-of-way that we have in the town?
As far as I know, yes.
So we only have two right-of-ways.
I think so.
Or town-owned right of ways, yeah.
Okay. So what would be the process for us to move ahead with a sale of the property?
I've contacted the town attorney and waiting for them to get back to me as far as the procedure to do that. Although the board hasn't voted on moving in that direction yet, we tabled it from the last meeting.
Would that be possible for you to vote on that tonight? At least on the sale, you can certainly discuss the process for it, but if you have a motion that you say, this looks like the best solution for us to move ahead and satisfy our town residents who are concerned about this.
That's possible if someone wants to make a motion to that effect.
I would rather wait till I hear back from what our attorney says,
Yeah.
personally. I'm not saying I'm opposed to selling
What
it,
would you be looking for from the attorney
see what he says.
about,
If we can.
what are you asking? Were you asking him if it's possible for you to sell it?
I don't know what Dan is asking, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that.
I've explained the situation and I asked for some guidance as far as how to proceed if the town board decided they wanted to sell the property. And I haven't heard back from them yet, so.
Okay. So, it seems like if the board wanted to go in that direction, then you can work it out if it's legal and how you would do the process, but it would be nice to know, rather than kind of having this go on all summer long, trying to do that, so. I put that in, and maybe put that in as, we'd really like that board to make a decision and let us know, so that we can move ahead with this quickly, as opposed to, going longer on this. I understand there'll be some legal things you have to check with the town attorney on, but if you wanna do it, I just wanna know if you want to do that. If you don't wanna do that, then we'll have to look at what other options we might have available. But if you wanna do that, if you're inclined to do that, let us know, and then we'll be happier and we can work on the other details. But I'll let some of my other colleagues.
Okay.
Well, one of the concerns that I would have is, this is gonna, if the town board does vote to sell this property, it's gonna be subject to a permissive referendum.
Yeah.
So the townspeople will have the final say on whether or not it's sold. And I don't know if you understand that that's what the situation would be.
Did you do that before you purchased the property, and acquired the property? I understand.
We acquired it through foreclosure, but when we sold the Kittler field,
Yeah,
that's,
that's the way that was done.
that's the way it's done.
That's what has been done in the past, yeah.
And then other people would be
Town law.
allowed to,
Other people currently should be allowed to use it if it's town property, correct?
correct.
I mean, that shouldn't be a problem because it's town-owned property.
Right, but the town has not taken any responsibility for it, and, up
No,
until
no,
this
I
point.
understand that part, but, I mean, I don't think that the other owner should be upset if someone who lives on Route 8 happens to go down to use the beach, because it is owned by the town. That's just my own opinion, and I live on Route 8. It wasn't me.
No, I know it's. Okay, I'll let you guys know.
You did good.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Just state your name, please.
My name is Michael Gordon, 168 Golf Course Road. The question I have for the board is, when did this property transaction occur? Right. I've got deeded, I've got a deed that says 2004 that the property, that I have 25 feet of lake rights. I'm questioning how.
That came with the property that you purchased.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, but the town took it over, took that section.
But I got no, I received no notice of that, it's a legally filed document, I just received no notification that this was part of that. I assumed when I purchased my property that there were deeded lake rights with this land,
you do have deed lake rights,
but it's town property,
yeah, you have a right of way on town property.
but so does everybody else,
True.
right?
Yeah,
What's my deeded rights?
your deed rights are the 25 feet if you're
So you're
facing,
saying it's subdivided 25 feet one direction, 25 feet the other, so we could put a fence up down the middle? Concede.
Absolutely.
The owner.
the owner, that would have to be,
Wouldn't that be the
There's something-
representatives from Golf Course Road?
There's
No,
some
'cause it's-
confusion on my part.
I don't
about
wanna do
this.
that, that's the last thing I wanna do.
yeah,
I'm trying to figure out how the value of this property can be added to, right? We are on the outlet, so we're on the backside of Golf Course Road.
right.
That property is accessible to us. So if it's town property, I'm not being assessed for it, am I being assessed for the entire lot? Am I being assessed for my portion of 25 feet? I'm trying to understand.
You'd have to talk to the assessors
That's-
to find
And
that.
I
I'm
did, and I
not-
was told
I'm
that
not
it was
sure.
just, because you have lake rights,
Yeah,
was the answer. So I'm just trying to figure it out.
yeah, oh, we are too, I mean, this is,
Yeah, that's the thing, that's why I don't wanna make a decision
No,
tonight.
I understand.
This was originally two 25-foot wide parcels
Mhm.
that abutted each other. Somehow, over the course of the years, it's become one parcel.
But how?
The original, well, all I know is in 1997, the town took ownership of the one that abuts Intimate. And that all the right-of-ways are supposedly on the other one, that abuts Anderson. Okay? I'm still trying to find out where that happened. I
Okay.
wanna know how it happened and why.
And I agree with you, Wonder, that's all I want to know too.
Is there
Yes,
someone
I
from the
have.
tax map office or something
Yeah,
that
that's
could come and,
there's a missing attachment A that I think would answer some questions that nobody is able to find yet.
Yeah.
I say yet, because I'm hopeful that,
Sure. Understood.
This will-
We're just trying to figure out how we resolve this issue. So I agree with John. I mean, we don't want to let this spin all summer long. if there's a way through it.
Absolutely. My feeling is that, personally, I think if it's my choice, I would say that we would sell this piece of property. It puts it back on the tax roll. It relieves the town of the liability issues, which are related to why the sign is there.
Right,
And
we move on.
we move on.
Agreed.
That's what I would, at this point,
Sure.
Would like to see
So my
that.
understanding then, as it sits today, we don't know where the paperwork stands from previous
Paperwork-
transactions and
paperwork
foreclosures.
and I'm still waiting to further
Waiting
correspondence
for the attorney,
for
understood.
the attorney, so,
Thank you.
all right. Anyone else?
I'll say a few words. My name is Randy Southard. I'm on the Golf Course Road. One of my properties down there affects the right-of-way. I spoke in here 2 weeks ago, and one of my big concerns were the fact that how this happened and where it went in the last 40-plus years. And now we're having a right-of-way situation where it's turning into a public beach through nobody's fault. But that's what's happening. All of a sudden, there's gonna be cars down there like there were today. People who've never been on that beach before in their lives. It's being opened up to a public beach. And here, we have paid taxes on our private right-of-way. And I use the word private because they're, according to Chris, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's 15 families that have a right-of-way on that. When I purchased, is that correct?
14 or 15. I don't
14,
remember.
15, whatever. But back in 1973, when I moved over from Lake Pleasant from my family camp over to the Golf Course Road, there was 6 of us on the Golf Course Road using that right-of-way. Sengenbergers was one, the Johnsons were one, we were one, Sarah Osborne was one. It keeps on going up to those 6. I didn't know there was 15 involved. But apparently there now are 15 people involved. Somewhere along the line, these 15 people were never notified, and I'm being told back in correct me if I'm wrong, 97, the town acquired these right-of-ways for $1. I never got a letter.
Acquired the 50 feet on the right. I still don't know how the heck they ended up being combined into one
You don't
parcel.
know, I don't know. All I know is,
The 25
you know,
feet.
you're
Probably
saying.
won't find out unless we have an abstract on it.
Exactly, but all of a sudden, here it is, where you guys got the property for $1, and here's all the people paying taxes on it for the last 40 years.
And now it becomes a public beach that anyone can go to, so we have a right of way, but everybody else in the town who doesn't have to pay taxes on it, doesn't have it in their lease, in their,
Well, again, you have it right away on the 25 feet on one side.
I have the right of way on the other side because it's town property. I have the right of way in the whole
Right.
thing, but,
Let me take exception to that one point. When I bought I own 3 properties down there, my second point was when I bought the vacant lot on the Golf Course Road back in 1981.
170,
Pardon?
it's lot 170.
There it is, 170. I went to Inman. Back then, it was, you know, my neighborhood. We all make mistakes. But anyway, I went to Bill Inman and I just said, listen, I have 2 deeds. I have a deed over here, I have a deed over here. They both have right of ways.
Excuse me, can you let him talk, please? Thank you, because this is being recorded, please,
Okay,
thank you.
but I just said, Bill, I have a deed here and a deed there, are there 2 separate right-of-ways? Yes. Do I have a deed to both right-of-ways? Yes. This is Bill Lindeman talking, I paid him for this
No,
information.
you don't, not to both,
Well, trust me,
okay,
I'm telling you what Bill Lindeman said.
okay.
And I got the deeds with me, and I understand where you're going. But I turned around, I just said, okay, I have 2 deeds, 2 different supposedly right-of-ways, and I went down to the right-of-way, and here was Sarah Osborne sitting on the right-of-way and saying, you belong over there. And I said, well, how are you over here? And she says, I own this right away. I'm just telling you what she said. Bottom line, Sarah and I became very good friends. I met Ken Abner back then in those days. He was still alive, and we got along great. But Sarah was the one that used to yell at the Sengenbergers for coming down and saying, that's your 25 feet, get over there. This is our 25 feet over here. True story.
Yeah.
Where it's escalated to today, Chris, you brought up a good point at the last meeting. What about the fishermen during the winter months? You know, if you turn around and somehow relinquish these right-of-ways back to the owners of record, or what do you want to call it? But you said, what about the fishermen? And I said, you know, I think we could take care of Oscar Slack. I think we could take care of Doug Sarecki with a letter. And we can also do one with Bob Black. He's always up there every year for the last 30 years. You know, so these guys can be taken care of with a simple, a letter from the association, which we could develop, like the other association on the, you know, the golf course road. And they all pay $100 to Gail Setlock a year to pay for the taxes. Our taxes are coming out of our property taxes, where they came in and turned around and said, listen, your taxes are going up. I said, why are my taxes going up? I haven't touched a tree. Well, you have a right-of-way, and your right-of-way has value. Well, I don't know how much value it's worth, but the taxes went up. And those taxes did go up, and now you're saying, okay, the town owns this property. We've been paying taxes on it. Where are we?
It's a mess. It really is, it's a mess, and I'm getting very much afraid that the only way we're gonna straighten it out is to pay for a very expensive abstract.
Well,
Because up here, it's common for people to sell right-of-ways to other people.
We found that out.
When my Uncle George subdivided his property, you remember George Schaefer, the house, and they had 3 cottages on the right? He subdivided that when he sold them, he gave them both a right-of-way to the lake. He only had one right-of-way. You know, and this is what happens. And then the attorneys let them get away with it.
Yeah, I don't know where to go with this particular situation, but
I don't
to
either.
open it up to the town, if the 15 people are paying taxes on it for the last 40 years, this is wrong. I don't care what you say. Putting up that sign down there, if we maintained it for the last 40 years, that was wrong. I think the sign itself really got a ball rolling here, saying, what is this? This is our Lake Pleasant government, you know, saying they're dictating to us. It's wrong.
It was protecting the people in the town of Lake Pleasant,
They
Randy.
might be protecting.
We didn't know then.
And that was under being advisement from the insurance company and the town attorney.
We haven't contacted attorneys yet. We're not there yet. We're hoping to see.
No, I'm explaining why the sign was put there.
Well, you don't want the liability. We are willing to take it on. We are willing to buy the
We
property
understand that.
back for $1, like you guys pay. Hello?
And again, your right of way is on the 25 feet to the left. The town right of way is the other, so you're not being taxed on the 25 feet.
We're being taxed on 50.
You're not paying, right of way, you're not being taxed for the right of way on the 50, only the 25.
Who's paying for the other 25?
We as taxpayers are, but you're not paying excessive lake rights on the 25 feet on the Intermin side.
When Vicky came down and said, Randy, you're paying for that 25 and you're paying for that 25, I'll bring Vicky in here.
Well, I think you should, because that's not right, because I don't believe that's correct. You do have a right of way to the lake, it's the 25 feet.
Dan, all I can tell you is what's being told to me, and
I
I'm trying to
understand,
be
I
upfront
understand.
about this.
I understand.
You know, when Sarah said, get over there, that's your
I
25 foot.
understand.
Hello.
Yeah.
I don't know how to resolve this, but I think one of the avenues we should strongly look at and be an end to this thing is, we would like to take on the 50 feet. The town has no responsibility,
That's-
the town got it for nothing, we want to take it back, we'll take on the liability.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll make it quick.
Sure.
Okay.
State your name. Okay.
2538 Sabre Day. I'm also on the right of way with these guys over here. And my 9-year-old thinks he owns the place down there. He just likes to take gear down there. Anyhow, this sign has been an issue. I noticed it went up in, I think, October or November-ish. And I've been asked ever since it went up, is that a public beach? By countless people, even in the wintertime. They've said, can we go there? Is that public access? And I said, I don't know anymore because there's a sign there that states something that I don't know anything about. Because when I bought the property about 10 years ago now, it was 2008 when I bought the property, August of 2008. It was just in the deed. It didn't say that the town owned the property right away. It just said it was a deeded right away. I since looked up the previous owner's deed, and it stated the exact same thing. It was verbatim, carried over. So I think in the course of my years living there, I did find out that the town owned the property. But it was never an issue because that sign wasn't up. And that sign says Town of Lake Pleasant at the top. So it does spell out to anybody coming into the area and taking a drive-by, because people drive by all the time down the golf course road and they look around. They're scouting all the time for a place to freely put their boat in. And I know they had an issue on Oxbow Road. I actually spoke to the neighbor across from that path, and he loves the sign. He says it's wonderful. He had people coming down that road trying to get their boat on Oxbow Lake, and they would get their trucks and trailers stuck in that tiny little mucky path. And he's so glad the sign's there. He said people were going into the bathroom in the woods there, and now they're not doing that because the sign says no boats. just generally no boats. I guess I kind of want to know, when it says no boats, does it mean no motorized boats, or does that mean no kayaks, canoes, hand-pumped rafts that kids might have? I mean,
I think you could bring your kayaks and canoes and hand pump rafts. I
And
think you
have those down
can bring
there?
them and bring them back.
okay.
I think there was an issue, this was before I was on the board, so I'm just thinking this was an issue with them being left there.
Left there, on the town side.
Right.
Okay, alrighty. And I guess I just want to ask the board, just throw it out there, no answers back, but just for the board to think about. If the town is worried about liability, and that's why the sign is up there, obviously, it's actually having the adverse effect. You're getting other strange folks that aren't used to the property down there. Who knows where they're from, whether they're from the town or outside of the town. I mean, people come up here from all over all the time. It's obviously putting the town at liability risks, I would think, especially a lot of the folks that have been on the right of way have cared about it so much that they have mowed, they have, weed whacked and made sure that it's a safe place. And if it's not tended to, it's not going to be a safe place. I mean, there's going to be critters in the tall grasses, and I know we're worried about ticks up here with our kids now. We've got ticks, I've heard, and things like that are gonna thrive, and it's not gonna be safe for anybody. So I guess I want to ask, just throw out to the board, please think about that if you do consider to sell that right of way, or look into it. I know it's going to be very difficult. There's a lot of technicalities to that, a lot of things going on there. Also, when we bought our property 10 years ago, when you buy a property and it has a deeded right of way, it does bring up the value of your property, whether you're paying taxes on that or not. So I want to say to the board, think about that for these people who are on the right of way. If the town hangs on to the property, could we consider something like that? Or Also, I would be worried about selling my property with the deeded right of way. I'm gonna have to make sure that I have, if I ever sell the property, that I have it specifically stated in there that the town owns the property. Because then that's liability to me as a property owner selling my property falsely to somebody with a deeded right of way that isn't technically just to the right of way owners, that also is combined with the town stuff. So, I think that's about it.
All right,
Just food for thought.
thank you. Anyone else? Okay, but I agree with Bob, I think we should wait to hear from the attorney as far as how to proceed.
Is the attorney out of town?
Young and Summers out of Albany?
So he's the town attorney? He's
Yes,
in Albany?
yeah,
Official title is attorney to the town.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
We don't pay a town attorney, we don't have a town attorney position.
So he's
Can't
not-
afford one.
Yeah, he's not on a retainer.
Can the owners of record get a list of all the owners that you guys have found?
Sure, I don't see,
I have actually on it, Mr. Southern.
yeah. I have that too, so if you need it, you can come to my office and be glad to give it to you, that we know of.
Do
Yeah,
we
we've
know, well, if there's 14 or 15 owners, I don't know them all. And I haven't researched
Right.
them in a lot of years. Like I said, I only did back in 1981. But if we could have a list of the owners so we could contact these owners and have their feelings of them,
Sure,
you know, that are not showing up at this meeting, because I thought it would be a little simpler than it's going, and apparently it's not. So, if you guys are gonna get lawyers, you're waiting for legal advice, I think we should have something in the background as well.
I think all we're really looking for is make sure we have our procedures correct.
and we're protected.
It doesn't sound though that the town is, up until this point, has been following procedures in terms of is there a record of the sale and what happened and all the things that we can publicly see, how the town acquired the property and for how
Go to
much?
the county clerk's office.
And then why the people who were affected weren't informed of it?
You know, it's an interesting thing, this whole property originally started out owned by
Go.
the Harris family.
Okay.
Glenn Harris.
Yep.
And I believe Isabel was his sister, don't know. But
Yes,
anyway,
that makes sense.
it was like way back when. And they bought it to develop it into, like a cabin community. And I've got the original map for this proposed development, and it's really, really interesting. They never did finish the whole development, but what's there now, all along Golf Course Road, is the start of it. And it was supposed to even go up and across the road where the old hotel was, you know. And at that time, when they started selling lots, they simply said, with a right of way to the bathing beach. And on the map, it had pretty much where it is now, but including Intimate's property, it said bathing beach, and it was a fairly large section. So over the years, you know, they sold their properties, so some of them with right-of-ways and some not, and they all said to the bathing beach, and then those people eventually sold or transferred their property to, you know, somebody who inherited it, or niece, nephew, son, whatever. And so, of course, the deed just continued saying with the right-of-way. Eventually, they started specifying 25 feet to the east of the Edward Metz property, which is Joe Anderson's now. Unless she sold it or died, I don't know.
You're still representing the Anderson
Just
family.
like here,
Oh, okay, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, I knew Joe. So,
he's the quiet one.
okay. So it's kind of like it just started out that way, as properties have been transferred, it just went, like Stephanie said, it just went along with the deed. And that's all it said, and it never said who owned the property. It just said it was a right of way to the bathing beach, and it's very interesting if you like researching that kind of thing. I can, I've got a lot of stuff on my computer now that I've entered as part of the search, and I'll share it with anybody that wants it, you know, it's not, it all came from the county clerk's office, it's public knowledge, so.
And then the town's role, once they acquire the property, what has the town been doing, or, like, it sounds like now, you know, how many years later, now a sign goes up because of liability, but didn't you have liability since 1997 for that property?
We did, but we'll go back to 2 weeks ago. You know, there was a problem down there which had to be addressed by the highway superintendent, brought to the board.
I don't know that there was a problem. I mean, the beach, the access road was improved so that it wasn't dangerous, and the town didn't do it.
I'll bring it up again, someone had driven down there, had gotten stuck, and someone did repair work on town property, which was addressed by the highway superintendent to the board. And again, that's how this all started. You know, I'm not saying you didn't improve it, but you really shouldn't be doing work on town property.
I didn't know it was from property.
Number one, no one knew it was town property, because the town never informed anyone it was town
We
property.
still don't know
Number
our
two.
question, which is, when did the town acquire it?
Doesn't matter,
And how did they acquire it? You won't tell us an answer.
Well, we know the parcel on the 25 feet that abut Intamin, we know the town got it in a foreclosure procedure in 1997, right?
And that happens to be
The
where
other one we
someone
don't
was
know.
doing repairs. And it happens to be where the docks and the boats and the decks
That's
and
the only
everything
way
else
you can
is.
get in there. That's the only access there is to that.
I understand that, but do you understand that that part where all that stuff is on the town
Well,
property? And
you
your
may-
right of, can I finish, please?
Yeah.
And your right of way is the 25 feet next to it. You understand that,
And
correct?
you also understand that the town has done absolutely no maintenance on that
I
property.
understand, that's not my point.
So, well, now they come down, somebody has improved it, so now it's a violation.
No, someone had tried to drive down this right away.
Other people had, do we say that people use snowmobiles going in? People who went in to go fishing use that road? I mean, people are using the road and the town hasn't maintained it. We took care of improving that, making it safe, and the town, no one even knew the town owned it, let alone was concerned about
Well,
it.
apparently some people did know because it was brought to the board that someone was doing work on town property, and which, at that point, the town decided that we better look into the liability issues of the town, of it being a public beach and people using this, and how to address it. At that point, and I bring this up 2 weeks ago when you were here, we contacted the attorney, we contacted the insurance company, and under their advisement, they supplied us with the information that should be put on the sign. At that time, the sign was ordered. When the sign came in, the sign was erected.
Can I just ask one more question? How
Sure.
many liability claims have been made to this town of Lake Pleasant on lot 175 since 1997 when the town acquired it?
I have
How
no
many-
idea. I have no idea.
Can we please ask the town attorney, who's on retainer, to research that so that we have officially know how many claims have been made in that property?
I'm not sure that's an issue, but
Well,
if the
it
board
certainly
so
seems
wants,
to be a really important issue right now because we have to put a sign
You
up.
know what, but the problem here is we're getting stuck in a rut. You know, I'm sorry that somebody who's trying to do something kind for an elderly woman, okay,
We all
that
are.
happened.
We all
I'm
are,
not-
right?
I don't think anybody wants to blame anybody, it just happened. Somebody else came along and said, hey, somebody's been down there doing whatever, you know? We didn't know who it was. So then the highway superintendent recommends that, well, maybe we better run it by our town attorney. It's not your fault, it's not our fault, it's just a situation. And I'd like to see us just get enough information, find out how this all came about. I'd like to know who actually owns the 25 feet on the left. It says it's one parcel, but I mean, do you just magically turn two parcels into one? There had to be an application to the court or something in order to get that done. So, you know, this is the kind of stuff we're trying to find out. And when Bill Wing went in there many, many years ago, when the tax map service I'm saying it wrong. Real Property Tax Service Office was formed, okay? And Bill Wing was hired to basically come up with tax maps.
Right.
And he did a remarkable job, but I'm looking for his original information. I think that we can probably find a lot out from that, but haven't found it yet.
Is there any time frame on the attorney's response?
It's sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes I'm sorry, I wish I could give you a better answer. You know, we're into the holidays here.
Yeah, understood.
I'm sorry, I wish I could give you a better answer, but
Anybody that, you know, has a talent for research, you wanna go up and live in the town clerk, or county clerk's office, you know, and dig, we'd appreciate any information you can find. You know, we're trying to find out what we can, Danny's got the tax map service office.
Is there any way this can be, is there any way it can be stopped by saying this is a wide open beach until this issue is resolved?
excuse
I'm
me?
not following what you mean, Randy.
What I'm trying to say is this is public property all of a sudden,
Okay.
so the whole world is coming in down there, parking their cars all over the place, and we're there paying the taxes on it, and all I'm saying is, can we stop this until the issue is resolved?
I think the only thing,
Apparently, the issue's not resolved.
I think the only thing we could do there is put a close sign, each closed.
We don't want to have that. We have 15 people that have been paying taxes on it. I mean, I'm trying to be honest. What? No?
It's a
I'll
problem,
go there.
you know, it's a problem.
Love that guy. He's my favorite son-in-law.
The only son-in-law.
That's what you keep telling me.
Is this not a problem that the in abstract can solve?
I don't know, I'm gonna vote, or request that we have a survey done of the property.
Are you making a motion to that
Values are
effect?
accurate, that's fine.
I'll make that.
A survey and an abstract?
Because even if you guys are gonna offer it to sell, you have to do an abstract.
Excuse me, if you.
I'm sorry.
If you're gonna speak, please come up to the podium and state your name, please.
I'm Joshua Barn on the Sangenberger side. Even if you guys have to order, even if we get to the point where you guys are going to make the decision to sell this property, you have to order an abstract anyways.
Absolutely.
So, why don't we order the abstract?
Let's
that
just
gives
get
us
it
all the
done.
answers we need,
Yep,
as well as the lawyer's liability answers as well.
yep.
We have a motion on the floor?
That's my feeling, and my feeling is that way. Not only do we want to represent you, we have to represent the rest of the people in the town. Gotta know what we're selling.
Okay, thank you.
That's all. That was my only
Well, it's a good point.
fly on the wall.
Yes,
Sorry.
no, thank you.
I was moving to have an abstract and a survey
And the
done.
survey done?
Survey done.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Sound okay?
Progress.
Thank you. Any other old business? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. First thing I have is, a deal has been made to get Moffett's Beach Road repairs done. That'll be happening pretty soon here. The total cost is estimated around $51,000 to $55,000. The town, through State Controller's Office, said the town should have a 10% stake in this project. So Randy and I and Bob Stegman from Region 5 and another person from his department at DEC decided that if the town could replace the culverts and do some flagging and traffic control and use of some equipment, that would cover our cost of the 10%. So if the board's
Do we need to have a memorandum of understanding or anything?
I don't think so. At this point, it's gonna happen so quick, I don't think we
Okay.
have time to put it together.
Fine.
As of Friday, Bob thought he was gonna get back to me that afternoon with a date on when that was gonna happen, so. That's in the works.
I just get nervous when we do things with the state of New York.
Yeah,
Salt-
well, most of this is
salt
on state
contamination
property,
is one of
so.
them.
Are they doing the work or are guys doing the work?
Actually, the work is being contracted through Tracy Eldridge through the county with an outside contractor to do the work.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So that's that.
Okay.
Ernie stopped in my office last week, I guess it was, and informed me a little bit about the cancer policy for interior firefighters. You want to speak on that at all? Any update at all at this point?
Yeah, they don't know anything about it.
Okay,
They
this is a,
haven't established the regulations that control it. That won't be until this fall.
and,
But it will be a liability to the town as it is a liability to the village as the agency having jurisdiction.
right,
It's like workman's comp, same thing.
yep.
Another present from the governor.
And we're looking at a cost of somewhere between $1,500 and $6,000 possibly,
Depending on who's covered.
right?
How many interior firefighters does the department have?
I'm sorry.
How many interior firefighters does the department have?
Well, everybody potentially could be.
No, you have to be trained to be an interior firefighter.
Everybody potentially could be.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we all have to go through the same training. The situation is you have to be fit tested right now, as far as I know, 5 years, up to January 1 of 2019.
All right, so how many of our firemen are fit tested every year?
8 to 10,
So we have 8 to 10 interior firefighters.
possible, yes.
Okay.
And right now, your guess is as good as mine, you have the same insurance agent we do, somewhere between $250 and $300 per fireman is the cost factor. But here again,
We think, yeah,
we think
yeah.
A year.
per year. Even FASNY, the Firemen's Association of the State of New York, hasn't come up with anything definite yet. And they're pushing hard.
Can you keep us up to date if you hear anything? I've put a call into Steve Son, just to ask, anything comes up to let me know, but,
He had an update bulletin at the chief show and he said he was gonna send it. I haven't seen it yet.
okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Yeah,
But I think it still requires one more action from the state, is that right?
yeah. They have to decide who it covers.
Yeah. that's-
And right now, that's what they're leaning towards, but who knows? Here again, they're not paying for it.
Right.
Thank you, Ernie. Next thing I had was the code enforcement semi-annual report. Bob, he's got a house full of people, so he's gonna put his verbal report off until the next meeting, although the board has received an update on the projects that are up to date as compared to last year. We can look it over before the next meeting. If you have any questions, review it with Bob at that time, if that's okay. Next thing on the agenda, Dave McComb on the camera for the pathway.
Dave McComb, on behalf of Second Dog River Pathway. I just want to bring up this custodial account that the village has, and I have an authority on that account right over there.
You mean the town has?
The town, yes, I'm sorry. And that custodial account, there's tens of thousands of dollars gifted to the Second Dog River Pathway. There are still a few tens of $1,000s there. Again, earmarked to the pathway custodial account. Historically, how this has worked, periodically I spend a little money. Usually it's $50 for screws. The biggest request I ever made was a camera, which is just recent. We've talked about a camera on the end of that pathway to deter vandalism is the intent. We've talked about it through 2 administrations at least. This may be the 3rd. Historically, how it's worked, went to the supervisor, And again, this is the biggest, this $200 request is probably the biggest. And Dan, you said to me, well, I gotta go to the board. Well, we had to sort of tell the village is going to be involved in this and buying the cameras. The fire department is going to install them, so it's no cost really, except the purchase of the one camera. And when you said, well, you gotta go to the board, I had to make a decision, and I did. And I said, if the board won't go for it, the McComb family will pay the $200. I guess what I'm saying, I don't think I should have to do that for this amount of money. Understand me, and I'm not usurping you people at all, understand me. I'm not going out to lunch on this money. This is strictly pathway money. I do sign periodically, I say for screws or something, incidental dollars. I just didn't think I should have to go through that, you know, again, in a reasonable manner. The supervisor should have the right to say, yes, we can spend a few $100s and come to the board and let them know that this has been spent. I guess that's where I'm at with this.
Is that how the custodial account was
That's
set
how
up? Because
we've
I'm not
always
familiar
done
with it.
Well, no, you're not alone. Dan wasn't familiar with it, and the
Yeah.
only one that honestly is familiar with it is Nancy Sight. And I want to tell you, there's several tens of $1,000s there. And
Well, I know
again,
we have the account.
Well,
I
yes,
mean,
but
I'm
it's a
not
big-
familiar with the,
And again, I don't know
parameters
the
that
work,
were set
listen,
up.
I don't know the working. I'm just the worker bee. I just do the job.
Dave, I had no idea how much we could spend at one time without authorization from.
Again.
Can I finish, please? Without authorization from the board, that's why I decided
Oh, all right.
to bring it to the
All right. Well,
board.
again, if it's a problem, like I say, I'll pay for it.
Oh, no, no, I
So you know.
I just
All right.
wanted to make sure
And I want
that,
you to know that I'll pay for it if I have to.
No,
But,
I don't
this
think that's
account,
the issue.
He did not know this money really where it was. I was told, I had Kathy look the other day. She wasn't too expensive. She mentioned $44,000. I don't think it's that.
not all.
I
it's
don't,
not
listen,
all
I'm
that, yeah.
thinking maybe 20, but then the fact is, I wanted to go over the cost of these sections. They're gonna have to be replaced. It's gonna be a big number. That's down the road. I may not be here for that, but I'm telling you, within 10 years, and I wanted to get these figures together, just to throw it to possibly what it would be. But at any rate, that's why I'm here.
I think isn't there still a board kinda sorta set up for the pathway?
No, it hasn't functioned in the last supervisor, and it hasn't functioned currently. It was a Paul Wilbur, serving with Frank Lozano when it was started. It was an ad hoc committee that done this. That broke up. I decided I was gonna stay there just out of dedication, and here I am. With that, thank you.
If you would like, I can help Kathy ascertain
If you
what
would
the
please, because the number she threw at me, I wasn't, in my mind, correct.
Yeah, that is, the TE fund has donated money. It's a
Right.
trust and agency fund that has money that was donated. The bulk of it is for the pathway.
Yeah.
Some of it was donated for the primary care.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Sure, it has to be, yes, that's why the number I think she threw at me was excessive, but at any rate, thank you.
And I think in the past you've done vouchers where.
Yes, I always sign for whatever, but
Right.
again, this number was larger than I ever did.
Yeah,
This was
200,
a-
believe me, it
in
was a
my
lot
mind,
higher than that at other times.
Well, I understand, but this was a large number to me.
Mhm.
And anyway, I just hated to say no, I'm gonna wait for the board meeting on that number. Thank you.
I guess I would like to know, what limit would a supervisor have as far as approving?
It's gonna come through on,
It's gonna come
it's gonna come through on
on.
an abstract, so,
It comes through on regular bills.
yeah.
That's the way it always happens.
Okay, but if he's looking for a quick, okay, can I spend this money?
I promise you.
No, I'm just,
I'll never do
I'm,
another field trip.
no, I'm just trying to address the board as far as what
I-
kind of a figure to give an okay on.
Well, obviously, we can purchase that. Why don't
Yeah.
you give us the details and let us just purchase it?
Well, the only reason that you are purchasing it, but the village is installing it, and the fire department is hooking it
Yeah,
up.
I
So
know, I helped run the wire for it, so I
yes,
know it's
that's what I'm
there.
saying. I mean, that's how that was being done. But it was the question of the dollars to cover that camera. And again, it had to sort of be expedited. I think I mentioned to Dan the day after the meeting had happened last month, I guess.
So has it been paid for at this point in time?
I don't believe it has.
No, I think is Ryan getting them? They've been, or Brian's doing that. They're going to be the village is putting up a webcam that'll be going up over the
Right.
lake, and as a package deal, we'll be getting 5 cameras.
Right,
One of which when it was brought up at the village board meeting, would be aimed at the entrance to the
Right.
pathway. So therefore, I thought it'd be a nice idea to pathway
yeah,
money therefore
absolutely.
paid for it.
That was my
Others
idea.
would be going towards Route 66, towards the ball field, I forgot where the other ones went. So I think Ryan is ordering them, one of the firemen is ordering them.
So then it would be a bill that
It's a, right,
the
it's
village
one
would
of five.
pass on to,
It's one of
to the
five
town.
cameras, right.
Yeah. Yeah, just pass it on to us.
it just, yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
we'll
one of
get
the,
paid.
I think one of the guys are gonna install it. They're gonna
Yeah.
install it to
Yeah, Brian's got it.
Yeah, that's probably what's gonna do it, right.
Sounds very reasonable to me.
Yeah.
No, it is, but I just didn't know what kind of a limit.
Well,
Yeah, it
It's
doesn't address the
acceptable.
root problem.
I mean, if it was $2,000,
Right.
Well,
I
I think if it was
wouldn't
2,000,
volunteer
it
to
would
pay
be.
for it.
that's not my point.
No, I'm just saying, I wouldn't volunteer to pay for it.
That's not my point. I'm just trying to come up with a figure that the board feels comfortable with.
What
don't know,
does
is it?
Randy, what is the 1,500? So
1,500?
just leave it as like
Okay.
any other
All right.
department.
That's good. All right,
Thank you.
thank you. All
So
right,
just so that I got my head straight, the village will pay for it and then they'll back charge us, is that correct?
Whatever your procedure is to do
Yeah, that's
that
fine.
kind of shared things.
Yeah, just back charge us and mark it for pathway.
Okay.
all right. Good. Last thing I have under new business is possibility that the county is going to be going to single source recycling. Yeah,
That's the way it is where my daughter is.
yeah.
Everything goes in a bucket.
That's all set now?
I spoke to the mayor briefly about what opportunities that we might have between the town and village as far as garbage and recyclable pickups in the future. I won't get into it anymore at this point because we're pondering this and we're gonna get together with Randy and Roger and see if we can't come up with some shared service idea as far as saving some money for the village and the town, so there's some possibilities there. All the recyclables will be able to be picked up with one of the packers that, instead of sorting and, could be a potential here to save some money, so. Just a,
How does that work when it gets wherever it's going? I know it's in a lot of places now, but you know, like if they're throwing everything in together.
It's all
They have ways-
machine separated.
they have machines that separate it.
So would the transfer station have that, or it just
No.
gets
No.
parted somewhere else
It
where
would
they
be
have
just a
that?
transfer station.
What's happening is that we're hauling all the garbage goes through Watertown at this time through,
Right.
through,
To Rodman.
Dank, yeah.
But,
What's gonna happen, possibly, is Fulton County wants our garbage and our recyclables. They lost Montgomery County, they've made a pretty attractive offer. Could save us money on a county level too, as far as the distance to haul.
Oh, yeah.
So, we're hoping all this is gonna come together and we can expand even farther between the village and the town, I think, so.
And will they increase the number of, you know how now it's only a certain number of plastic that can be recycled? Will they increase that numerical number?
I'm
Or-
not sure,
Cause like the lettuce containers or something, like
Yeah,
right
they're-
now, other communities throw that right in there.
right.
It'll be whatever Fulton County does right
yeah,
now.
whatever
Yeah.
they can get money
Okay,
for,
they're the
probably.
dictator then, they dictate.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they let the county know that they want our garbage. So, I think it's
can
pretty
make 'em
attractive. Yeah. So, does anybody else have anything under new business?
Oh. Maybe roundtable. Wake up. Wake up.
Yeah.
Youth Rec is starting next week. Just wanted to get that out.
I'm sorry?
Youth Rec is starting next week and hopefully we'll have, you know, a good group of children taking advantage Tuesday.
Yeah, but just this Saturday, it worked out where we had Samantha I was hoping she'd have some of the kids help sell drinks, but,
Yeah,
the Lions Club did hamburgers, hot dogs, and cheeseburgers, and,
she was selling.
we were trying to get the youth program to do the drinks, you know, teach kids about making some money, and unfortunately Samantha ended up being the only one there to do it, so I'm hoping we have a good turnout of kids
Yeah, for the summer.
for the summer program,
She's put a
so.
lot of energy into it, so.
Yeah, she has.
Okay, we've all been through the bills?
No,
No?
I was tardy, but I'm fine.
You're fine.
My vote would make no difference.
I'll entertain for a motion to pay the bills then. Mike,
I'll second.
Nancy? All in favor? Opposed? We're back at public comments, anyone at this point? No? Round table, Mike?
No.
Nothing? Nancy? Chris?
Jim Tavares isn't here tonight, is he?
No.
I just wondered what the, you know, what's going on with tourism, but maybe we'll get that next time.
I'll make sure I talk to him before the next meeting.
Thank you.
Bob?
I'd like to thank these folks from the golf course for their coming forth and being very kind and in an orderly manner, and we're looking forward to working with you, or at least I am, so thank you.
Appreciate the board's consideration.
Right, I agree. Thanks, and I have nothing, so is there any reason to go to executive session? Hearing none, I'll entertain for a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
And I'll move.
Chris?
Second.
Alright, thank you, everybody. I'll second it. Oh, Nancy. Thanks.